Well, greetings everyone. I suppose there's no better place to start than, I guess, right here. As you can see here, this is my video editor, and I did start a video. I did a video, okay? It ran for, I don't know if you can see it in the frame here, but it was 1 hour, 41 minutes, 9 seconds, and 28 parts of a second long. So it was, an hour and 42 minutes long, let's say. And I started editing it, and up here you might be able to see it says I got 22 minutes and 57 seconds into this when I had a knock at my door. And I just haven't been able to bring myself back to this video. I'm probably going to just delete it. And if you want to know the reason why, and I do highly recommend that you go to this video that I had brought out on January 1st, 2021. It was one that took a long time to upload, and it finally did upload, but I give, a little description here where how long it was with only a 39% upload, so I've been hindered to bring a video after that because of the time frame that it takes. The electric goes out or something, it gets lost, I have to start all over again. The file of the video, would still be there. I just have to upload, and then another day or two later it upload to YouTube. So I just really been turned off there. It's difficult, to actually speak about how I'm feeling right now. And the reason I'm bringing this is because of my brothers and sisters that are in the body of our King. And I know you are, because you love me, and I love y'all too, but I just have not been able to bring myself to type or even to look at emails and such, I've been dealt one of the worst fiery darts that, could ever be fired. And the only time that a fiery dart lands within your heart, let's say, is when it's thrown by a family member or a very beloved friend, someone you really love. They're the only ones that these fiery darts are effective when they hit. Otherwise, we have the armor that our Father gives us that protects us. But this fiery dart, it went right straight through my shield of faith, and it missed my arm, I guess, but it got me right in the heart so deep that, as Johnny Cash said, and I do bring out down here, it burns, 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 right down in this here message. But as you can see here, Rayanne had written me in the comments, and she said, "Where are you, Al? Are you okay?" Well, I love you, Rayanne. I do. You and Blue Turtle and Melvin, thank you so much too, because I know Melvin is concerned. Same thing as Timothy P. and others. I love y'all. It's just that I've been struck with such a blow, that I was totally unsure of my own self. It's one of those blows that, even though there's all the evidence in the world to show it never took place, to have it said is so devastating, because that if it was known by one, then others have heard it as well, and it's of the variety that, stains a soul. It's a thing of murder on your brother and such, but the person that had spoke it isn't a brother, okay? So, and of course, those I have in my family members, there are those that just love me and know that I'd never do such a thing. But for me to say, hey, look, this one's a liar or something like that, I hate to do that either. I don't want to defend myself, I don't want to answer this with any dignity or a lack of, but just the accusation itself, though, untrue. If it was a brother that spoke it, and we were actually where the saints would be gathered here before too awful long, charges would be brought up, because of false testimony. If someone brings false testimony against somebody of such a caliber as what I was accused of some 30, 40 years ago, 40 some years ago, they would have the penalty put upon their own selves for the false testimony, and it means that that person would be put to death. And it grieves me, especially because I want to get into some of the deeper spiritual aspects, because I understand where these accusations come from. And I don't have familiar spirits anymore, but I used to have them. Ever since I was born, there were familiar spirits around me. And I know the individual has some of those that were cast from me. And I brought out, these things before on the Signs and Wonders channel. I had spoke of the devils being cast out of me. Of course, I never did mention where the lady, after, she was going out and anointing my van to cast the devils out of the van as well. And she put oil on her thumb, and when she stuck it up against the my Volkswagen van, there's like a little round area before you get to the air grid underneath the windshield. And when she stuck her thumb on that rounded area, it stuck there, and smoke just started coming out, and she got her thumb pulled off, and it pulled the whole bottom of the pad of her thumb off, and it stood on the van, and it burst into fire, turned to ashes, and fell to the ground. Everyone was screaming and all that sort of stuff. So I know the power of those devils that were in me. And I've claimed to be of the 144,000. The accusation that was spoke against me would have soiled my reputation so badly that even my own self, after I heard what I was accused of, it's a sort of filth I felt just from the accusation. I hated myself just to be able to be accused of it, and I fell short of being joyous. And I do want to confess that to y'all, but I have found joy in those like Ray Ann and Blue Turtle, Timothy P, Melvin. Thank you, Melvin. Y'all have shown that you do love me. You've checked up on me. I thank you for it. So I'm giving you answers to, why I've been so secluded, I guess you can say, that I even tried. Did you ever watch the movie Inception? If you haven't, it's about dreams and the ability to be able to create your own dreams and your own dream world and such, and to get into other people's dreams without them knowing, so you could manipulate their behavior and things. But during the movie, it showed certain things taking place when the individual that was dreaming, and they were creating the dreams for him or her, when they came to know that they were actually in a dream, things really started getting messed up. But also they had certain abilities and powers over that dream that they were having to bring out the outcome that they were desiring, which actually overruled those creating the dream for them. And I guess you can say I've been trying to create my own dream. I kind of lost myself in playing
It's your turn.
Phase 10, and I count all the numbers of the cards, what I have. You can see they're playing without me here because I'm bringing this video for you. But to get a fuller picture of what I'm going to speak about, please go to this video, as I said. It's from January 1st, 2021. Prepare and don't follow the God Janus. January tonight. It's not a new year. I'm not saying to watch the video. If you keep New Year's Eve, I would recommend that you do. But go down to the comments, and this was 5 hours ago when I had seen this from Rayanne, and then it shows I answered her 5 minutes ago. And I haven't been back to these videos or anything. Right now it's the 13th of January 2021, and like 1:04 in the morning. But I wrote her back this here comment, and I explain a bit about these fiery darts and such, and I'm going to go through that as well. But for you to understand a little more what I'm saying, and how I deeply feel and how I was affected at that time, and when I wrote that, it was shortly after I had received the news, and I still haven't got back to the video as I showed. I think I may just delete that and just use this instead. But Timothy P. had written, man, I lost another day. My brain is going crazy. You know, he's been feeling the same things. He's been losing time as I have. And then Rayanne also had written a week ago. And as you see, I haven't really been to videos or comments or anything for a while. I just have not felt adequate. You know, I feel on myself the sort of filth just from the accusation that came, that, you know, a shower just couldn't get rid of it. You know, 20 showers. I'm sure that the reason I'm telling you these things is, and I doubt that any of you gone through exactly what I'm going through right now, but it was promised. Our King told us these things are going to come, and the more you keep the faith and the more faith you believe you're standing on, and the trust that you're putting in our King, sometimes these tests and trials can become overwhelming, to the point where the devils come and even try to talk you into suicide, you know. And it's like, but I didn't do nothing. Get thee hence, Satan. And, you know, they attack you physically. I mean, my guts were in torment here, I'll tell you what. After I finally convinced them that I wasn't, you know, it was like ping pong balls against the Sherman tank, their little desires to have me do to myself. And it's like, you know, what purpose would it do for anyone? I'd be stealing from our Creator, our King, you know, because I don't believe that I'd acquire salvation. It was one thing for King Saul to kill himself. You know, he saw his entire kingdom gone, you know, and he already knew that Father Yahweh didn't accept him anymore, so he killed himself. But me, you know, I know our Father calls me his son, and I knew that only a couple years ago, but for a long time I had my doubts whether I was or not. And then I remember I was told, you know, that I was to leave my father's house and go build my father's house with gold. And it was just recently, you know, as well, that I realized the gold. I mean, I had broke my back and everything else, you know, since I was called out to where I couldn't get out and shovel like I used to, you know, or anything, if I was even in the areas where I could do so. And then our King let me know, you know, that gold was the scriptures. It was the knowledge and the truth. That was the gold I was to build my father's house with. And, you know, our King, at that pretty close to that same time, is when he showed me that, you know, when I was called out, I was to build my father's house with this gold. So anyway, we're going to get into some of these things, but Harry Sitt, he also wrote, man, Harry, I love Harry. He believes he's going to be raptured January 3rd. You can see, well, it's gone by already. That was 10 days ago. The 13th, so Harry may be raptured today, maybe the 29th, but if not the 29th, he'll probably get some more dates before the 29th, like he did this last time. He got 3 of them where he was, at first when we met, he was only getting 1 date. And then a while later, he'd get another date. Then after a while, he'd get 2 dates. And then when neither of them came by, well, now it's up to 3 dates that he's getting. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully one of these days, Harry's going to say, you know, I've listened to that junk enough, you know. If our King comes, he's going to come. But until he comes, I'm just going to start practicing what our King wants us to be doing, Harry, you know. So I love you, Harry, you know, and I thank y'all for the comments, but I just can't. It's like my fingers are tainted. I feel so horrible against my own self, though you know, the messenger that came was proved. I was like in Germany at the time the offense took place here in America. But, you know, regardless, those that hear it, you know, there's always going to be in their mind, regardless, you know, the evidence I can bring forth to show I wasn't even here or anything else. And, you know, but the blemish itself from somebody even hearing the offense that took place, and I've been accused of many things, you know, I've been accused of a lot of things, but the darts, they were just darts. They turned out to be ping pong balls, you know, against the Sherman tank later as it went on. There's been times I had the city of Abilene. There were 10 plaintiffs that came against me. 9 of them, well, the city of Abilene was one of them. 8 of the others were those of the city's legal department. And the other one was the fellow that came and put my dog in my house and burned it down around her ears. Later, in retribution, retaliation for me standing up in front of a public forum, the Abilene Building Committee, whatever, the Abilene Building Committee, something or other. They called me before because my house had been burned and they had a sticker around it that no one was supposed to go there. It was, under investigation. The investigation never took place. And during that meeting, I spoke how Richard Sullivan put my dog in my house, burned it down around her ears, and he was there, and he never said he didn't because he knew he did. I was showed these things, I've seen things without my eyes in the past, and this man was so infused with me that it was like 32 or 33 days later, after that Building Standards Committee meeting, that's what it was. They gave me 30 days to, I was allowed to rebuild the house. But, I was allowed to keep the foundation. But when I started to go through the house, we noticed that it was a stone house, and the mortar between the stones was crumbling, and the stones were chipping too. It was a very hot fire, so it really devastated everything. Richard Sullivan had poured 7 gallons of kerosene throughout the house when he burned up my dog in there. And so we called in a dumpster, and the entire lot was completely cleaned up, right to the foundation. The lot had been cleaned up to, and I had bird pens and things of that sort, which were not condemned or anything of that sort. It was just talking about the house and that I had to clean up the debris. But I had a business of thousands of birds, and he came down and he had an address for a different property to do the bulldozing. I had done everything. I had on a receipt showing that the entire house and the debris from the entire area was removed, and that sits in the court records. But yet there were 9 human beings and the city of Abilene, 10, that came against me. Those were fiery darts, and they created, it was a fraud that they brought me there under. I've had people conspiring, the guy and his gal conspiring while I was sleeping. They were going to hit me over the head with my iron skillet, killing me. And when the cops got there, they were going to accuse me of something. That's horrible, But I left before they hit me over the head with the big old skillet. And that was, a fiery dart, and it stung me. Because I loved these people. I knew them for years, and I loved them. But then they got to hating me, the spirits they got on them. They just started hating me. And, I pray for them and I forgave them. I forgive everybody. Because here in Matthew, you see our king, he's speaking. He says, blessed are the peacemakers. Now, how can one become a peacemaker? Only by keeping the laws and commandments. If you keep the laws and commandments, you'll be keeping the 2 greatest, to love your Father with your whole heart, soul, might, mind, your every fiber in your DNA, and to love your neighbor as yourself. If you do that, then you're not breaking any laws or commandments, because if you loved our Father, you'd keep his feasts. If you loved our Father, you wouldn't eat pork. If you loved our Father, you'd live by his every living word. And if you do that, then you become one of these. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of Yahweh. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. Now again, what is righteousness? That's right, Deuteronomy 6, verse 25. It shall be righteousness for you, for me, for all of us, if we keep his commandments. So if you're going to be persecuted for righteousness' sake, it has to be because you've been keeping the commandments, not that you broke any. You know, the disciples, they got whooped, man, and they come out of jail there after they was whooped, and they was jumping up and down with joy because they was whooped for our King's sake. And I fall short. I don't know how to do that yet, but I am rejoicing now in those that love me enough to, you know, contact me and see how I'm doing. And, you know, I'm healing well. I'm really healing well. It was horrible. But anyway, it says, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, because they've been obeying our King. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you falsely. Now, don't let them say things against you because it's true, you know. I mean, if it was true, I don't know. I'd probably have followed. No, well, you know, no. It's hard to say. I really have to say I wouldn't have killed myself if it was true, because I would have asked our King forgiveness. But, you know, this is something that supposedly took place over 40 years ago, and I wasn't there, and I've done a lot of evil things, you know, that people have said, hey, man, you did this, and I say, yeah, I really did, but, you know, I changed. But what I was spoken of, I didn't do, and it's of the variety that, you know, it's going to stain their mind just hearing it, you know, and it's going to be a battle for each and every one of them. It's a battle for me, and I'm a believer, and those that hear these, you know, there's a couple that have some understanding that have heard it and haven't turned completely against me yet, you know, but there are others that, you know, haven't, but, you know, been in much contact with me. There are a couple, you know, that when I write, they'll write back, but I noticed there was a change after I found, you know, out what was said. There was a change because it was said maybe about a year and a half ago or so. It was before my brother David moved back to Alaska. We were having a conversation that I knew at that point that something was quite different. I could discern the spirits that my brother has, you know, as well as most people when we speak. I can discern, you know, the spirits through language, you know, through comments and such. I can discern these things, and, you know, when somebody is acting really different, you know, you can discern it. And I knew at that moment, because of what our conversation was about, that he was told something very, very devastating. But, you know, he turned my question around on me, because I asked him, I said, so have you found out yet why so-and-so just hates me, you know? And he said, well, is there a reason why so-and-so should hate you? Which brought me to the conversation with him at the time. It's like, look, you know, I don't know. I says, but I'll tell you one thing. I said, I did have a talk with that person, you know, about a year or two before. And I told that person they needed to quit doing witchcraft. I said, and the reason being, Dave, you know, is, you know, I used to have those same spirits and they was cast out. And I can feel the spirits on that person that used to be on me. And, you know, there's times when someone's possessed, and I was possessed. And when you are possessed, there's times that you can have dreams that the devil puts in you. You know, if you're possessed, they've got complete facility over your dreams if they so desire to take it, because they're in you. And they can make you dream things that you really thought took place in your life, you know, which is kind of like that movie Inception. And when I was dreaming things, you know, when they upset me, you know, there's times my friend Pete, you know, when I was growing up, he was a close friend, and Michael and a couple others, you know, were close friends. And, you know, there were conversations we had where they thought I was a bit nutty because I'm pissed off. They want to know why I'm pissed off. And I explained to them what I had in my dream, thinking it was something that had just taken place, you know, maybe a week or two before, or even longer than that. But now I'm pissed off about it still, because I was a sinner, I didn't know how to control myself, and I would explain what went on. And I say, Pete, you was right there. You seen it. You heard it. You was there, Mike. And they're both looking at each other like, what is he talking about, These were dreams that I believed was so real that unless my friends had, set me straight on it, I'd still be in that dream thinking it was real, like in the inception there. I realized back then that some of these dreams I was having really didn't take place. And there were some horrendous things that I thought had taken place, but they was so real. And it took a few times, my friends. And then things I was dreaming started to come real. And that freaked my friends out, equally as bad, on the other side of the spectrum. But, what I'm saying is that the devil can take over somebody's mind and create a situation. And that's probably what I believe has taken place with this individual, because I've known this individual for, over 50 years, I believe. Yeah, over 50 years I've known this person. This person had come over to my house. I was married, had children, and we'd all have meals, whatever, I would go over to that person's place. Even at my mother's funeral a few years ago, that person invited my brother David and me both over to dinner. I've been around that person's children, and everything. And if I had done what this person actually does believe I done, otherwise the person would not say it. And I fully believe, and why I'm not, up in arms over it at all. I mean, it hurts very deeply, but, I'm trying to be this peacemaker and trying to understand why it was said to begin with. And I do believe it was those devils, persecuting me to bring forth that person, to bring forth the persecution on me, to bring forth such a rallying accusation, even though it shows, and there's other situations I could show too, that the person did not hate me, until about 3 or 4 years ago, that person started hating me. But it's supposed to have been over something that took place 40 some years ago. And, it just doesn't make sense. And, anyone that looks at that person's life and the dealings that we have had, we've talked, ate meals together, all kinds of stuff. Well, when I was invited over to dinner, I let that person know I could not eat, but I'd be glad to come over just the same. And I explained, my allergies and, of course, the pork and such, and, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that religion, and I let that person know, by the way, your house is infested and you need to get away from that witchcraft, so now I'm at the door and I'm being looked at like, I I would be better off I was laying dead at the stairs. Of course, I did go in, and I chased them all out of the house while I was there, and they left, That person noticed something was way different because the whole house felt different at that moment. And I didn't even see this person really, since, but a couple times, and each time it was like a rage growing deeper and deeper in that person. And I hadn't seen the person now for, a few years, but I was always wondering why that person was so angry with me. My brother didn't know at first, and then that day in the car, he says, well, don't you have any idea, why that person would hate you? So I'm thinking at that time is when my brother David was, made aware of the accusation. The other person I love very deeply that divulged it didn't come over just to tell me that. That person also knew for a while. I didn't ask when. I probably should have, but I was really stung with it. I was not prepared. I've always got my shield of faith on. I have my trust in our King only, and I've been keeping the laws and commandments and rejoicing in Him the best I could. But He says here, when they do this, when they They say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. But you know, it's difficult because I really truly love this person, but they're not listening to me. They hate me because I pointed out what actually is taking place, because they're practicing witchcraft in their house, you know. And even those that may not partake in those ceremonies, knowing they're going on or whatever, it's the same thing. They're allowing it. So I believe that in the mind of this individual, the accusation that came, especially the magnitude of it, has to totally be believed by the one that said it. So I can't hate that one. I do pray forgiveness for that one, for what was said, but you know, at the same token, I'm not going to go around my family, you know, my flesh and blood family, and defend myself. I'm not going to do it. You know, that's not the reason I believe it came. I believe it came so I could expound a little bit on what took place with me, so that you can see when it comes, and it most likely will come against you. And it may not be the same exact situation came against me that's got me floored still, you know, and feeling unclean and uncertain. But I'm healing because I know it didn't take place. But at the same token, I know that person is, you know, bringing death upon that one's own self by the accusation. And of course, you know, already being condemned for the practice of witchcraft, but I still feel bad because I'm associated with it, though I never partook. You know, I hope you can understand what I'm saying. And there may be accusations coming against y'all too, that our King promised will come, and he said to rejoice. And like I say, right now I'm rejoicing in all of you that actually noticed, you felt in your spirit that there was reason to contact me, you know. And that's because it says here, like, and I only read this because it's true. I don't think it's scriptures that anyone can actually want to controvert, because they do magnify our King, and in a way that others, you know, the disciples didn't really bring out into this light as this one individual did. And you know, I'm going to read it so that we can understand how we should act and why we should act the way that we act, how to have better self-control. I mean, I could have flew off the hinges, and I'll tell you, when I was first told the news of what I allegedly had done, our King, you know, he gave me great composure. At least I believe it may have looked so in front of the individual, because, I mean, I was totally floored. It just slammed me. But all I could say was, what was that? And then, you know, I says, well, when did this take place? And the time was told me. I said, well, you know, I says, let's go back to that time. And I was in Germany, you know, so it's like, wow, boy, you know. I said, man, I hope you don't hate me because of what was said. And that person said, you know, if I was, I wouldn't be here, would I? And I said, wow, that's true. So that gave me a little joy there, you know, but it was sure fleeting after that person left. And then devils jumped on me, man, and I started seeing all these things in the back, you know, of everything, and how it could even come about that such could be said, you know, with all the events where it never would have. I mean, if it would have been done, the person would have never loved me, but the person only stopped loving me just a couple years ago. So I'm thinking it had to come from a dream where it's actually so real in that person's head, you know, that it's now coming out. Where had come out at that time, I probably wouldn't have survived until now. Okay, that's how bad it was. But anyway, here in 1 Corinthians 12:12, it says, for as the body is one and has many members, you know, we're talking to you, Timothy P., and Rayanne, and Blue Turtle, and Melvin McCullough, you know, and the rest of y'all out there that are keeping the laws and commandments to the best of your abilities, having situations come on you where it almost seems impossible to keep the laws from not picking up something and knocking someone in the head with it, but we can do that. We've been building character because we're part of this body, I do believe. So it says, for as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, also is Messiah. For by one Spirit we are all baptized into one body. Now, I don't know if y'all have been baptized or not, and I'm kind of scared to baptize at this time. And that's a horrible story I don't really want to get into. I'm thinking that maybe the baptisms are going to come at the time that we are gathered. Then I believe we'll be baptized. But right now it's something that I don't want to get into right now. It says, for by one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, whether slaves or free, and have all been made to drink into one Spirit. And when you pray, your spirit's before the throne. Okay, and your Holy Spirit is speaking with our King, and our King is speaking to the Holy Spirit to help you. And my Holy Spirit is there whenever any of you all are praying, your Holy Spirit that is in you, that it's speaking of here, that one Spirit, it's conjoined with mine, and I believe that's when you most likely feel when you're praying, that I've been, deeply distressed. And some of you don't stop praying either, I quit cutting off my prayers. My entire life, every part of it is a prayer to our King, and that our Father may be glorified and honored in the Son. And, at all times, my Holy Spirit's before the throne, so if I lost my composure, it would be right there before the throne. There's no hiding, And after the accusation, I couldn't even get myself down on my knees to pray. I tried to hide from myself. I was just so horrified. I just felt so unclean, It was just so bad. For that to be even thought of, But anyway, we're all made to drink into that one Spirit. For in fact, the body is not one member, but many. If the foot should say, because I am not the hand, I am not the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? But now Yahweh has set the members, each one of them, in the body just as he is pleased. And that's why, we've got carpenters and plumbers, and there's going to be, with this number that's going to be brought to that place that we're gathered, those that can build a complete city and run it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So there's many different walks in life. Some are butchers, some are farmers, some harvest, some know how to put in water wells, some know how to make electricity. I do that. I can do that. I can explain it, and at that time, we're going to all have electricity, so we'll at least be able to have heat. Okay, but it may be time taking to get it built to that way. I don't even know where we're going to be taken to. But anyway, but now Yahweh has set the members, each one of them in the body just as he pleased. And if we were all one member, where would the body be? I mean, if we was all a carpenter, if that's all we ever did was be a carpenter, well, who's going to plant the produce? Who's going to cut up the chickens and the cows, or whatever we're blessed to have? Who's going to do these other things? Who can lay the tile? Who can lay the brick? Carpenters, they do wood. And if they were all one member, where would the body be? But now indeed there are many members, yet one body. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again to the head to the feet, I have no need of you. No, much rather, those members of the body which seem to be weaker are necessary. Even the guy that's complete butt, man, it's necessary, and you know it. When you get called to that ceramic throne, the entire body follows what that least member, the weaker member, has to say. It's like, you got to go, man, and then if you don't, you embarrass yourself. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, on those we bestow greater honor. Yes, we should be enlightening our brothers and our sisters. We should be endearing to each and every one, and even the weaker ones, love them, and pay a little more attention to them if you need to than, if you're so busy or whatever, to the ones that are real close. It's kind of like where our King said, the righteous shepherd, he left the 99 to go after the one. He wasn't ignoring the rest of them. He knew they was all right. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, on these we bestow greater honor, and our unpresentable parts have greater modesty, but our presentable parts have no need. But Yahweh composed the body, having given greater honor to that part which lacks it, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. See, and that's what was showed upon me, and I'm tickled and I'm so glad, but I just can't bring myself to typing, my brothers and sisters, putting myself back into anything is like, I'm healing, okay, but it's made me a hermit of all hermits right now, and I'm over the initial shock. I am healing. I will get back to swing of things, but I just need a break, So anyway, and it says, and if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. And I believe y'all have felt this too, You felt some degree of my suffering here, and you responded to it. And I am so thankful. It just shows even more that you're of the body. Where if one member is honored, all members rejoice with it. Now you are the body of Messiah and members individually. Same thing as talking about, the vine and everything. And, I just wanted to build you all up a little bit and let you know that you're walking right. This is the things, and I didn't bring up the scripture for it, but it talks about, you'll know who the body is. You'll know who the true believers are by the love they show toward one another. And this is the keeping of the law. And some of y'all are just concerned because of my age, but I think there was something else that was going on with y'all. And I think y'all felt a little bit of, my troubles when you went before the throne in your prayers, because my spirit was testifying with yours as well. And, you took away some of my pain. And I thank you for that, to where I'm starting to rejoice that I know you people and that you people love me and I love you. So here we got another writing that I don't believe Paul even wrote. I believe this was somebody else that wrote this. Some people do give Paul credit for writing this, but here, even in Romans, it'll show you. Romans chapter 16 and verse 22, it says, I, Tertius, who wrote this epistle, greet you in the Messiah. Okay, so I'm kind of led to believe here something that I don't know of any of the other scholars or such out there have seen these things, but our King showed this to me. This Tertius guy, I don't know who he is, but he had all these brothers and sisters here, and he wrote Romans. Okay, I, Tertius, who wrote this epistle, greet you in the Messiah. So I have to go toward the leaning point to believe that Tertius did what he said. Otherwise, people would have said, well, wait a minute, you didn't write this. But I never heard of that taking place. So anyway, here in Romans 12:12, now that we know Paul didn't write this, this may be able to help us even deeper into understanding how to handle situations when they come on you, especially accusations, that you're suffering for the sake of our King, for the sake of righteousness, to deal with them the best you can without complicating matters. And sometimes it's best just not to address it. Just let it go. If they're going to hate you, they're going to hate you still. If they're evil, they're going to be evil still. And if they're righteous, they'll be they'll be righteous still. So here in Romans 12:12, it says, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation. And that's what I'm trying to be, is patient during the tribulation I'm going through right now. Patient in tribulation, continuing steadfastly in prayer. And I pray always, and I prayed forgiveness for this person for doing so, but it was something needed to be done so I could bring this video, I guess. So I rejoice in that. Romans 12:13, distributing to the needs of the saints, given the hospitality. Now, the needs of the saints is my brothers and my sisters here. They write and say, hey, you doing all right, man? Or whatever. And accepting this video where I explain why a little bit. And, it's very devastating. It's burned me out. It sucked the marrow right out of my bones. I'm just so burned out of everything, It's... I didn't have a reason to live before, and now it's like magnified. But I live for our King. That's why I get up in the day and sometimes even go to sleep on my own. Romans 12:14, bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse. See, I'm not guilty of that this time. There are times in the past, that I was pretty upset when people had done things to me, and I cursed them. And there was a time that these curses came true, and I saw it, and I'm like, no, please don't stop, please, please, please. And at the time it was the Jesus, and please, the Jesus, stop. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry, please refrain. Should I laugh to make you stop? I don't want to laugh because it's so sad what took place with these people. Because I spoke it. So I stopped speaking these curses. Romans 12:15, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. And I believe y'all have, and we're going to keep doing this, even on a magnified scale as time goes on. We're going to see the kingdom coming closer and closer. And at the gathering, we're going to quit our weeping and we're going to rejoice. It says, be of the same mind toward one another. Do not set your mind on high things. And he's not saying on the kingdom, our mind should be on the kingdom. These high things are like that gold watch that you want, or I don't know. What kind of things do people really want? Another gun, or I don't know. It's, these higher things, the things of life. Miller High Time. There's nothing wrong with wanting a beer. I could sure use one, right? I could sure have used some this week, but I've had nothing to drink. But associate with the humble. And I've been, I've been humiliated, so I don't know if that makes me humble or not. But it says, do not be wise in your own opinion. Repay no one evil for evil. And I don't know if it's evil for me to forgive that person, but I'm doing that. And I mean that person no harm. I pray that person will repent and someday wake up and see and realize that they was in a dream. They had to have been, in order to dream up what was said against me after all this time even. It just makes no sense, especially when the person loved me up until just a few years ago. After we had a little chat and I explained about those devils that were there on that person, in that person, and of course it wasn't wanted to be heard. And those devils have hated me, and that person has fueled everything, but I'm still praying for that person, and I forgive that person for all the evil that they think or have said or have done against me. I don't want anyone to be guilty of anything that took place against me. I know that these things are just the devils. We fight spirits. We don't fight flesh and blood. And we're not to repay any evil for evil, and have regard for righteous things in the sight of all men. If it were possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. you know, and it's possible for me to even live peacefully with that person, because I'm not going to be inviting the person over for supper. Because in the mind of that person to have said something of that sort, I must have done it enough for that person to try to convince others that I did do it, you know. And I know that I was a sinner of all sinners, but I know I never done that one. That's one that I've always thought was the worst, even though, you know, there's no sin greater than another sin. Whatever sin it is, you break one law, you broke them all, you know. So, but in my mind, because I'm a human being, that one particular sin is probably the horriblest one, the one I hate the most. And I was supposed to have done it. So it was tough. It was a fiery dart, and it burned, but it's healing now. I finally pulled it out, and the meat stuck to it as I yanked out, you know, and it pulled out a lot of festering stuff that may have been building up in there from other things. To see that, you know, as devastating as this is, there never was anything this devastating on me that has ever taken place, you know. So all the other things that help purge out of me as well. So I feel a whole lot cleaner now, and I'm healing, but it's going to take me a while to get in the swing of things, but I'm healing quick. And I'm not going to be inviting that person around me. And if that person is at somewhere, I don't go anywhere anyway. You know, the family hasn't invited me out to anything really, because they know my beliefs. They all know, you know, what I believe. And that's why I'm being attacked as I am, I believe, as well, to make family separate even further, especially with a lie in their mind. But anyway, if it were possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. And even, you know, spouses that have an unbelieving partner, you know, an unbelieving husband or wife. It's like, if it's possible, okay, to live together, you know, peaceably, do it. Bend backwards for people. And, you know, we don't have to attack. There's a time to be bold and stand up and speak, but it's according for this word, you know. If somebody comes speaking against this word, I'm going to be bold and I'll speak about it, and I'll put that person down right there in the spot. But what was against me personally, I can't do that, you know. I got to roll with the punches and learn to be able to rejoice, but I'm working at it, and I don't want many more tests and trials. So I'm finding through the, you know, the debris that was scattered from this nuclear fiery dart that blew me to pieces, turned me inside out. I'm trying to gather the pieces together enough to where I can rejoice in that taking place, and hopefully I won't have to go through another one like this to see if I'll rejoice, because every test and trial we go through, it's being written down. It's being made note of. The books that are being written about us, you know, the devils are even writing it down, and they hate to do it, but they've got to, you know. They're still trying to find some dirt on me, so who knows what else will come up. But anyway, beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says Yahweh. And I really don't want vengeance to take place to this individual, because I know even though it was them that desired, I mean, for my sake, I don't want it to come on them. Now, what they do, you know, their witchcraft and everything else, if our king wants to put vengeance on them for doing those things, that's fine. But for what was done against me, no, I don't want anybody to have vengeance on them by our king or our father or by the Malachim or anybody else. You know, I forgive them. I love them. Like it says, therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing so, you will heap coals of fire on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with righteousness. Now, please remember, this is Tertius here writing this. I, Tertius, who wrote this epistle, greet you in the Messiah. So he wrote, from what I understand here, he wrote, you know, Romans. So I tend to believe what he said there. Now here in Ephesians, it's a different thing, but it says here, Ephesians 6:10, it says, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in Messiah and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Yahweh, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the adversary, the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age." They get pretty tough. "Against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." Some of these guys got some stout to them, you know. They're not what Ghostbusters and stuff want you to think. "Oh, look, he sucked the juice out of my battery. Oh, he sucked the juice out of my camera, too." These are really hungry, boy. You know, like they're going to die or something. No, these spirits have been around for a long time. They don't need to suck the juice out of batteries, or they'd have starved a long time before we invented them, since they had last been invented in the Egyptian days. And then the knowledge got lost until recently. But it's against spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of Yahweh, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Well, I'm standing, and I found it real hard to get on my knees before our King after I heard what I was, supposed to have been. And, I was so dirty, I couldn't get on my knees. When I finally did, I forced myself, but when I finally did, I couldn't stay there long. I simply prayed for you all. I asked our Father to watch through his righteous Son over you all. And the prayers that I've asked to be heard, I pray that our King's will be done with it. And hey, I'm just too soiled to even be here before you, and I thanked our King, our Father, and I got up and ran away. I was still feeling so ugly and begging forgiveness, and I didn't even do it, but it was just such a horrible variety. So anyway, therefore, take up the whole armor of Yahweh, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand, therefore, having girded your waist with truth. And what is truth? In videos past, I'm not going to go into it right now, but in like Psalms 119, it'll tell you that law is truth. It'll tell you that the word is truth. This is truth. The every living word, you have to have it girded on your waist. Having put the breastplate of righteousness. Okay, and again, what's righteousness? That's right. Deuteronomy 6, verse 25. It will be righteousness to you and to me and everybody else who does it. Who does what? Keeps the commandments of our Father. That's this breast of righteousness. All the Christians out there saying, "Oh, we're putting on the breastplate of righteousness." And they're eating pork in one hand, and supposed to have their shield of faith in the other, I guess. It's like ridiculous. "And having shod your feet with the preparation of the glad tidings of peace." It's talking about these written words, the truth, the testimony of our King, the laws, the commandments. Keep the 10 commandments by keeping the give or take 613 laws. The schoolmaster will guide you into doing so, and then introduce you to our King once you learn how to keep the 10 commandments. And that's what this breastplate of righteousness is about. And having shod your feet with the preparation of the glad tidings, the message of peace, the laws, the commandments, all these things in the scripture that our King wants you to do. Self-control. This is what you're to shod your feet with. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. Well, I'll tell you what, though I've got the shield of faith, and it only comes through the schoolmaster, turning you over to our King, who could then give you the true faith. It speaks of it in Galatians. It tells you how it works and how it's done, and it's true. I've been through it. I know. I was given to our King. I have this faith, but hearing such a thing, like I say, that fiery dart went right through my shield of faith and caused me to doubt myself and everything. I was wounded severely. But now my shield is mending, I'm getting all the kinks knocked back out of it and doing pretty well. Got the dart pulled out of me with all the abominations that surrounded it, yanked out of me. And I'm healing, okay? Above all, taking the shield of faith with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. And that, like I say, that shield of faith, that's like the Sherman tank I've been speaking about when the adversary comes with ping pong balls, accusations of many sorts that don't come with such a magnitude as these fiery darts. It could only be launched. I've been accused of the same thing on 2 occasions in the past, but it was by people that were just speaking crap, okay? And it was like the ping pong ball off the shield of faith, but the third time, they usually say is a winner. This one from a loved one came right straight through my shield of faith, boy, and stuck me in my heart. And it burns, burns, burns. But it's to quench these fiery darts. And when you got the faith, and you don't just lay down on the job and listen to the devils that came telling me how I should kill myself and everything because of, what people are going to be thinking and how they're going to look at me and this and that. I should just end it because, I didn't listen to these things because I'm wearing this armor. Ephesians 6:17 says, and take the helmet of salvation. Well, what is that? It's the 10 Commandments. By keeping the give or take 613 laws that the schoolmaster, the Holy Spirit, guides you in so you could learn those 10 Commandments. That's this helmet of salvation. And the sword of the Spirit. And what is the Spirit? The Spirit is truth. We're to worship our Father in spirit and in truth. The Spirit is the schoolmaster. The Holy Spirit, it's the truth. It's the every living word. It's all that this is, the every living word, keeping our Father's commandments, the laws. That's all this armor of our Father is. This isn't take the helmet of salvation, knowing the truth, the laws and the commandments, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit. If you're going to do anything like me, do that, and better, or do better than I do, because, it's not like I'm always praying. A lot of times my mind is blank. I try to take away everything from myself, and I try to get this blankness so that I don't feel so bad about what's going on in the world and everything. You want to see something really peculiar? Let me show you this. Are you familiar with Antifa? This is a Google search, Antifa. Ready for this? Let's hit I'll show you. I'm just going to hit the enter button. Ready? Ready? Here we go. And watch it comes up on screen. Well, so far, that is a lot different than what was there here. Different than on Sabbath, because I was showed this on Sabbath, just shortly after Sabbath. Part of the conversation was this, and the person brought it up, and the first thing it showed, well, see, I told you before that history has a way of changing. And, what took place before in the Google search when I typed in Antifa this last Sabbath evening, and this last ending of the Sabbath, just shortly after, within hours after the ending of the Sabbath, I typed in Antifa. The person that came to give me information used their phone, typed in Antifa, and when it came up on the Google search, it put you right straight to President Biden's page. I don't even know if it's going to be on here now or not, because they take things down that they don't want to be there. And I thought it was very interesting that, the new President Biden page was directly linked to Google. Well, it's not anymore. So anyway, Ephesians 6 verse 8, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints. Of course, we don't know who all the saints are, so maybe we got to pray for some of our enemies. Maybe they'll end up being one of the saints as well, Doesn't mean you got to invite your enemy over to dinner. Now, if they show up at your door and they're hungry, just tell them, well, you wait right here, and I'll get you something. And go make them a sandwich or something and bid them well as they go down the street. Don't send them away empty-handed if you've got something. It doesn't mean you have to invite them into your house if you know that they're capable of that sort of violence with words, against your character or something. You shouldn't invite them into your house. That opens a door for the devil, actually. It has nothing to do with showing hospitality. It has to do with wisdom, because once you invite them in your house, if they kill you, it would be easy for them to have a defense. Well, the person did this to me before, and they invited me over, so I came over. They tried to kill me, and I self-defense killed them back, and you don't want these situations. You don't even want these evil thoughts like I'm, conveying that could take place. I pray that my mind wouldn't even do these things, but there it is. But it's not against a certain person. It's against situations that could arise. Why you should avoid it, but leave them at your doorstep and say, sure, if you're hungry, I'll get you a sandwich. You just wait right here, lock the door, go back in, and make them a sandwich and bring it out. Ephesians 6:19, and for me that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the glad tidings, for which I am an ambassador in chains, and so am I. I've got these same chains. Though they may not be physical, I still have chains on me, just this last week has bound me, But anyway, that in it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. So, I hope that y'all got something out of this. Again, I do love y'all. I apologize for not bringing this video up. In fact, I guess what I'll do with the ending here is we're just going to delete it as it is, because I don't even want to hear my voice in there. It does something to me when I was listening to myself after the accusation that it just made my voice such a turnoff to me. I couldn't stand myself. I couldn't finish, but I will, Yahweh willing, get this video out as soon as I possibly can. And with that, I want you all to know, no matter what comes upon you, you can overcome it. Think of where you are today. Look at the problems you had last year. Look at the problems you had 20 years ago, but you overcame, and you're still where you are right now, but only better. The horrible things that can come upon you will make you stronger if you just allow our King to work in your life to allow you to become stronger. And sooner or later, your shield of faith will be able to deflect most every dart. And they'll be like ping pong balls, but once in a while, these big fiery darts, our King allows them to come through, and by doing so, it does build character in ourselves. We can see the strength that we can actually have and walk in the integrity that was meant to bring honor and glory to our King by the way we conduct ourselves. And, I know you're all doing this, okay? So there's no sense me bringing it to your attention, except that it says that even, preaching is foolishness. It's foolishness to have to preach. But it also says that we should bring to remembrance, these words to one another. I hope that I did. And with that, I love y'all. And you know why, I'm not answering and such right now. I want to, but, I just, owie. I love y'all. Bye.